Hey, what's up guys? This is Nick at BarBend.com. Today I am reviewing Transparent Labs' very large bag of mass gainer. So Transparent Labs is a Utah-based supplement company. As the name suggests, they've got this really big commitment to transparency in their products. So there are a couple of unusual things about them. They list the exact weight of every single ingredient that they have in their product, like down to like the milligram. And they also provide certificates of authenticity and analysis on their website, which is like a nice touch. And none of their products have any artificial ingredients either. So they're one of the newest supplement companies on the block, but they really are starting to make a name for themselves. And we've reviewed a ton of their other products. We've got their pre-workouts and their BCAAs, and then they've got like a wide variety of different kinds of pre-workouts as well. This is your standard mass gainer, very high in calories. This is the milk chocolate flavor, so we'll see how it tastes. Very pleasant. I quite like it. You know, the scoops are gigantic. It's 100 grams per serving. 100 grams per scoop, and each serving is meant to be 2 scoops, so 200 grams. For context, normally for a protein powder, a scoop is like 30 grams. So there's a lot of powder here. It instructs you to put in 2 scoops in 16 ounces of water. I put in 1 scoop in 12 ounces of water. So this is a little bit watery, which is to be expected. Honestly, there's so much powder, I was expecting it to be very overwhelming, but it's not. You know, most of the ingredients are maltodextrin, and also it has natural flavorings and sweeteners, so it's not necessarily a really overpowering kind of flavor. But what I got here, yeah, it's quite pleasant. It's a good milk chocolate kind of flavor, even though I just mix it with water. Okay, so let's take a little look at the nutrition label. This bag is 6.5 pounds, by the way. 1 serving, 2 scoops, is 740 calories. In that, you're gonna get 53 grams of protein, 109 grams of carbohydrates with 8 grams of fiber and 15 grams of sugar and no added sugar, and 12 grams of fat with 6 grams of saturated fat. It is worth emphasizing, yeah, this is relatively low in sugar for a mass gainer, and it's a 1:2 ratio of protein to carbohydrates. Cholesterol-wise, there is 37% of the recommended daily intake of cholesterol in this, which might be noteworthy depending on your dietary goals. And for sodium, there's 24% of the recommended daily intake of sodium as well. Other vitamins and minerals, there's not a lot to talk about. There are plenty of mass gainers out there that add a ton of vitamins and minerals to the mix. This doesn't have that many. There's the sodium, which is a mineral. There's also 15% of your daily iron and calcium per serving. Besides that, there's really nothing else here except for 2% of your daily potassium. So yeah, not the highest in micronutrients as far as mass gainers go. So as far as the ingredients go, 1 serving is 196.76 grams. 100 grams of that is organic tapioca maltodextrin. The next ingredient is grass-fed whey concentrate from New Zealand. Then there's some coconut milk powder, some natural chocolate flavor with some cocoa. There's some medium chain triglycerides added as well. There's a bit of added fiber. There's 3 grams of creatine monohydrate per serving as well. Then there's just some sodium chloride and a small amount, 1 gram each, of oat flour and sweet potato powder. And then there's some stevia and monk fruit as well. So as I mentioned earlier, no artificial ingredients in this. And it's also pretty remarkable, there is a coconut milk powder and medium chain triglycerides, which is something that most mass gainers don't really focus on. Okay, so as far as the price goes, this giant bag here, it is between $60 and $70 for that one bag. The price can change at any time for any reason, but right now, yeah, between 60 and 70 bucks for 15 servings. So it comes to between $4.25 and $4.50 per serving, or roughly 55 to 65 cents per 100 calories, which is a pretty good way to measure the cost of a mass gainer, which are very high in calories. If you buy more bags, the price drops a bit. If you get 2 or 3 bags, the price drops by roughly $5 per bag. But yeah, so 55 to 65 cents per 100 calories, that's relatively pricey for mass gainers. Most of the top brands out there, they are about 40 cents per 100 calories. So this is like quite a bit more expensive. That said, this is all natural, and it's got a big focus on MCT oils as well. So, you know, you may find that price worth it, especially given that it's relatively high in fiber as well. So there are a lot of things to like with Transparent Labs Mass Gainer. Number 1, there are no artificial ingredients or soy in this, or added sugar, which are things a lot of people value. I'm not necessarily saying those things are bad for you, but there are definitely plenty of people out there who prefer products without artificial ingredients or soy or added sugar, so that's worth pointing out. The sugar content itself is also relatively low. There's 15 grams per serving and 740 calories. That's not bad at all. Another thing, this is a pretty decent source of fiber as well for a mass gainer. 29% of the recommended daily intake of fiber in 740 calories. I quite like that. Also, the whey is grass-fed as well, and it also comes from New Zealand, and that's definitely partly responsible for the higher price point. But yeah, that's a lot of people do really prefer that kind of whey, like the sort of grass-fed. It may have more beneficial fats. And on that note, this also has a pretty big focus on MCT oil. There's coconut milk powder and medium-chain triglycerides added to it, which a lot of people are big fans of. The main things you might not be quite so crazy about with this product, it is relatively pricey for a mass gainer. Again, you may find that price worth it given all the ingredients and lack of certain ingredients that you might want to stay clear of. But yeah, the price is worth pointing out. As far as the nutrition goes, macros are pretty good. It's a 1:2 ratio of protein to carbs. Some people, including myself, prefer 1:3, but that's a very individual thing. I can't really criticize them for that. But there aren't many vitamins and minerals here. There's just 15% of the daily calcium and iron. It doesn't really substitute for a meal in that regard, as some mass gainers do. It's also pretty high in cholesterol, 37% of the recommended daily intake and 24% of your daily sodium. I'm not saying those are bad for you necessarily, but that may not fit in with your dietary goals. That's worth pointing out. There's allergens, potential allergens with this too. This is made on equipment that also manufactures stuff with eggs, soybean, wheat, shellfish, fish oil, tree nuts, and peanut oil. If you have very, very sensitive allergies, might not be for you. Finally, this contains creatine. Now, I consider that a pro. I quite like creatine. I'm always happy when a product just throws some in there so I don't have to think about it myself. But not everyone takes creatine, right? And especially if you're really trying to reduce bloat, maybe you're getting prepared for a show or something like that, you may not be crazy about the fact that this has 3 grams of creatine. Okay, so those are my thoughts on Transparent Labs Mass Gainer. I know that was quite a lot of information, so if you want to read the full written review where I get a little bit deeper into the weeds on all the studies and the pros and the cons, just Google the full review. Just Google BarBend plus Transparent Labs Mass Gainer.